Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Line that is the commercial organization responsible for operating a system of transportation for trains that pull passengers or freight. Compel by coercion, threats, or crude means. A line of track providing a runway for wheels. He walked along the railroad track. Supply with railroad lines. Railroad the West. Transport by railroad. Line that is the commercial organization responsible for operating a system of transportation for trains that pull passengers or freight. Line that is the commercial organization responsible for operating a system of transportation for trains that pull passengers or freight. A line of track providing a runway for wheels. Line that is the commercial organization responsible for operating a system of transportation for trains that pull passengers or freight. The road consisting of railroad track and roadbed. Line that is the commercial organization responsible for operating a system of transportation for trains that pull passengers or freight. Compel by coercion, threats, or crude means. A member of a European military unit formerly composed of heavily armed cavalrymen. Subjugate by imposing troops. Hit something or somebody as if with a sandbag. Compel by coercion, threats, or crude means. They sandbagged him to make dinner for everyone. A bag filled with sand, used as a weapon or to build walls or as ballast. Downplay one's ability, towards others, in a game in order to deceive, as in gambling. Protect or strengthen with sandbags. Stop up. The residents sandbagged the beach front. Treat harshly or unfairly. A line of track providing a runway for wheels. He walked along the railroad track. A course of reasoning aimed at demonstrating a truth or falsehood. The methodical process of logical reasoning. I can't follow your line of reasoning. A slight depression or fold in the smoothness of a surface. His face has many lines. Mechanical system in a factory whereby an article is conveyed through sites at which successive operations are performed on it. A connected series of events or actions or developments. Historians can only point out those lines for which evidence is available. The road consisting of railroad track and roadbed. A conceptual separation or distinction. There is a narrow line between sanity and insanity. A succession of notes forming a distinctive sequence. A conductor for transmitting electrical or optical signals or electric power. The principal activity in your life that you do to earn money. He's not in my line of business. Make a mark or lines on a surface. Draw a line. Often plural, a means of communication or access. Lines of communication were set up between the two firms. The descendants of one individual. His entire lineage has been warriors. Space for one line of print, 1 column wide and 1/14 inch deep, used to measure advertising. A short personal letter. Drop me a line when you get there. A telephone connection. Be in line with, form a line along. Trees line the riverbank. The maximum credit that a customer is allowed. A particular kind of product or merchandise. A nice line of shoes. A pipe used to transport liquids or gases. A pipeline runs from the wells to the seaport. A commercial organization serving as a common carrier. Acting in conformity. In line with. A formation of people or things one behind another. The line stretched clear around the corner. A formation of people or things one beside another. The line of soldiers advanced with their bayonets fixed. A fortified position, especially one marking the most forward position of troops. They attacked the enemy's line. A length, straight or curved, without breadth or thickness, the trace of a moving point. A mark that is long relative to its width. He drew a line on the chart. A single frequency, or very narrow band, of radiation in a spectrum. A spatial location defined by a real or imaginary unidimensional extent. Cover the interior of. Line the gloves. Fill plentifully. Line one's pockets. In games or sports, a mark indicating positions or bounds of the playing area. Mark with lines. Sorrow had lined his face. Persuasive but insincere talk that is usually intended to deceive or impress. Let me show you my etchings as a rather worn line. Reinforce with fabric. Lined books are more enduring. Something, as a cord or rope, that is long and thin and flexible. A washing line. Text consisting of a row of words written across a page or computer screen. The letter consisted of 3 short lines. To compress with violence, out of natural shape or condition. Squeeze a lemon. An aggressive attempt to compel acquiescence by the concentration or manipulation of power. To cause to do through pressure or necessity, by physical, moral or intellectual means. He squeezed her for information. A twisting squeeze. A state in which there is a short supply of cash to lend to businesses and consumers and interest rates are high. A tight or amorous embrace. Squeeze like a wedge into a tight space. I squeezed myself into the corner. Squeeze or press together. The act of gripping and pressing firmly. He gave her cheek a playful squeeze. Hold someone tightly in your arms, usually with fondness. Obtain by coercion or intimidation. They squeezed money from the owner of the business by threatening him. Press or force. Squeeze tightly between the fingers. She squeezed the bottle. A situation in which increased costs cannot be passed on to the customer. Increased expenses put a squeeze on profits. Press firmly. He squeezed my hand. Slang. A person's girlfriend or boyfriend. She was his main squeeze. The act of forcing yourself, or being forced, into or through a restricted space. Getting through that small opening was a tight squeeze. Prolific United States writer, 1822 to 1909. To cause to do through pressure or necessity, by physical, moral or intellectual means. United States astronomer who discovered that sunspots are associated with strong magnetic fields, 1868 to 1938. A soldier of the American Revolution who was hanged as a spy by the British. His last words were supposed to have been, I only regret that I have but one life to give for my country, 1755 to 1776. Draw slowly or heavily. Exhibiting or restored to vigorous good health. Hale and hearty. To cause to do through pressure or necessity, by physical, moral or intellectual means. The act of pressing, the exertion of pressure. He used pressure to stop the bleeding. The pressure exerted by the atmosphere. Exert pressure on someone through threats. The state of demanding notice or attention. The force applied to a unit area of surface, measured in pascals SI unit, or in dynes, CGS unit. The compressed gas exerts an increased pressure. The somatic sensation that results from applying force to an area of skin. The sensitivity of his skin to pressure and temperature was normal. A force that compels. The public brought pressure to bear on the government. An oppressive condition of physical or mental or social or economic distress. To cause to do through pressure or necessity, by physical, moral or intellectual means. Of a law, having legal validity. Group of people willing to obey orders. A public force is necessary to give security to the rights of citizens. Physical energy or intensity. He hit with all the force he could muster. A put-out of a base runner who is required to run. The put-out is accomplished by holding the ball while touching the base to which the runner must advance before the runner reaches that base. The shortstop got the runner at second on a force. To cause to do through pressure or necessity, by physical, moral or intellectual means. She forced him to take a job in the city. Force into or from an action or state, either physically or metaphorically. Urge or force, a person, to an action, constrain or motivate. Move with force. Impose urgently, importunately, or inexorably. She forced her diet fads on him. Squeeze like a wedge into a tight space. A unit that is part of some military service. He sent Caesar a force of 6,000 men. One possessing or exercising power or influence or authority. May the force be with you. An act of aggression, as one against a person who resists. He may accomplish by craft in the long run what he cannot do by force and violence in the short one. Take by force. A group of people having the power of effective action. He joined forces with a band of adventurers. A powerful effect or influence. The force of his eloquence easily persuaded them. Do forcibly, exert force. Don't force it. Physics, the influence that produces a change in a physical quantity. Force equals mass times acceleration. Any road or path affording passage, especially a rough one. Computer science, one of the circular magnetic paths on a magnetic disk that serve as a guide for writing and reading data. Travel across or pass over. Go after with the intent to catch. The act of participating in an athletic competition involving running on a track. An endless metal belt on which tracked vehicles move over the ground. A course over which races are run. Evidence pointing to a possible solution. A distinct selection of music from a recording or a compact disc. The title track of the album. A line or route along which something travels or moves. The track of an animal. A bar or pair of parallel bars of rolled steel making the railway along which railroad cars or other vehicles can roll. A groove on a phonograph recording. A pair of parallel rails providing a runway for wheels. Carry on the feet and deposit. Track mud into the house. Make tracks upon. Observe or plot the moving path of something. Track a missile. Give something useful or necessary to. Provide or equip with furniture. We furnished the house in the Biedermeier style. Circulate or distribute or equip with. Supply blankets for the beds. Give something useful or necessary to. State or say further. Give what is desired or needed, especially support, food or sustenance. The activity of supplying or providing something. An amount of something available for use. Offering goods and services for sale. Give something useful or necessary to. Melt, fat or lard, in order to separate out impurities. Render fat in a casserole. Give an interpretation or rendition of. The pianist rendered the Beethoven sonata beautifully. Bestow. Render thanks. To surrender someone or something to another. Render up the prisoners. Give or supply. The estate renders some revenue for the family. Pass down. Render a verdict. Show in, or as in, a picture. The face of the child is rendered with much tenderness in this painting. Restate. Words, from one language into another language. She rendered the French poem into English. Give back. Render money. Make over as a return. They had to render the estate. A substance similar to stucco but exclusively applied to masonry walls. Cause to become. The shot rendered her immobile. Coat with plastic or cement. Render the brick walls in the den. Give something useful or necessary to. We provided the room with an electrical heater. Supply means of subsistence. Earn a living. He provides for his large family by working 3 jobs. Mount or put up. Give what is desired or needed, especially support, food or sustenance. The hostess provided lunch for all the guests. Make a possibility or provide opportunity for, permit to be attainable or cause to remain. This procedure provides for lots of leeway. Determine. What is to happen in certain contingencies, especially by including a proviso condition or stipulation. The will provides that each child should receive half of the money. Take measures in preparation for. Provide for the proper care of the passengers on the cruise ship. Go on board. Transport commercially. A vessel that carries passengers or freight. Hire for work on a ship. Place on board a ship. Ship the cargo in the hold of the vessel. Travel by ship. Transfer. Cause to be directed or transmitted to another place. Send me your latest results. Assigned to a station. To cause or order to be taken, directed, or transmitted to another place. Cause to go somewhere. Cause to be admitted. Of persons to an institution. Broadcast over the airwaves, as in radio or television. Transport commercially. The act of moving something from one location to another. Hold spellbound. A mechanism that transports magnetic tape across the read, write heads of a tape playback recorder. Something that serves as a means of transportation. A state of being carried away by overwhelming emotion. Move while supporting, either in a vehicle or in one's hands or on one's body. The commercial enterprise of moving goods and materials. Transport commercially. Send from one person or place to another. An exchange of molecules, and their kinetic energy and momentum, across the boundary between adjacent layers of a fluid or across cell membranes. Move something or somebody around, usually over long distances. An electric railway operating below the surface of the ground, usually in a city. In Paris, the subway system is called the metro, and in London it is called the tube, or the underground. A railway up the side of a mountain pulled by a moving cable and having counterbalancing ascending and descending cars. Railway for steep mountains. A cogwheel on the locomotive engages cogs on a center rail to provide traction. Angular distance above the horizon, especially of a celestial object. A railway that is powered by electricity and that runs on a track that is raised above the street level. Of high moral or intellectual value, elevated in nature or style. A railway that is powered by electricity and that runs on a track that is raised above the street level. Increased in amount or degree. Raised above the ground. An elevated platform. A railway that is powered by electricity and that runs on a track that is raised above the street level. A railway that is powered by electricity and that runs on a track that is raised above the street level. A railway up the side of a mountain pulled by a moving cable and having counterbalancing ascending and descending cars. Relating to or operated by a cable. Funicular railway. A railway up the side of a mountain pulled by a moving cable and having counterbalancing ascending and descending cars.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.